Well, Ulez fines could be invalid because of this. Let's begin. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's fast seeming like Ulez is turning into some sort of comedy of errors, doesn't it? Because apparently drivers who dare to venture into the newly expanded Ulez area might actually have the chance to contest all those fines if they can't locate any warning signs, which makes me wonder how many will, accidentally of course, go missing because of this. Hopefully they'll be rarer than an eco-idiot's intelligence. But apparently though, Nick Freeman, aptly named as Mr. Loophole, appears to have mastered the art of getting drivers off the hook faster than you can say traffic violation, and now he's taken the absence of any cautionary signs as his latest loophole. But to add to that, there's a whole council protest going on, isn't there? With 6 out of 7 councils near London refusing to install any of those signs at all. It's kind of like the ultimate game of let's confuse the drivers. But at least one good thing is though, if they don't have any signs, hopefully we'll be able to give the fines a virtual middle finger. Let's of course not forget the drama of the damaged and stolen Ulez cameras. I mean, those poor cameras are now facing more abuse than a piata at a kid's party. I mean, nearly 90% of these cameras have been either vandalised or pilfered, turning them, of course, into the most unluckiest victims of camera crime. I mean, what a shame, eh? And in the midst of all this chaos, we have the calm and collected, of course, voice of Transport for London, urging vandals to think about the poor cables, which are apparently more fragile than a soap bubble. I mean, you wouldn't at all be responsible for any of those cable casualties, would you? But then again, something like this, of course, is going to be a massive blow to Sadiq Khan's green agenda, or WEF gender. And hopefully this will mean that any £12.50 daily charge notice you get through your door will actually be enforceable as toilet paper, and will be as useful as it too. Anyway, the article says that drivers who enter the newly expanded Ulez area in London could contest the fines if there are no warning signs, according to a leading motorist lawyer. Nick Freeman, dubbed as Mr. Loophole thanks to his successful defence of numerous driving charges, claimed that the absence of cautionary signs on the outskirts of London might lead to a number of challenges from drivers, and it comes in response to Sadiq Khan's proposed expansion, with 6 out of 7 councils bordering London choosing not to install any Transport for London Ulez signs as a form of protest. And it could mean more drivers will unintentionally enter the payment zone, which could lead to fines, but of course they might not be enforceable because of this. But Mr. Freeman said that if there are no signs visible, fines would not be applicable. And he told the Telegraph, any road traffic regulations that are introduced, there must be clear and unambiguous signage. And in the absence of clear and ambiguous signage, no penalty can be enforced. And this, of course, happens in speeding cases. You can get it in bus lane cases. There are a whole host of cases where the signage isn't clear. And then when somebody wants to challenge it, they inadvertently win because the signage doesn't fit the bill. The scheme has faced a lot of backlash, of course, with the new data revealing almost 9 out of 10 cameras put up to enforce the expansion have either been damaged or stolen in southeast London. But the Ulez Camera Locations Facebook group has more than 7,500 members who report where enforcement cameras are being installed by Transport for London, the TfL, and their status, which is then uploaded in a map. And also, analysis by the Times suggests that 156 out of the 185 cameras erected, steady, in one 56 square mile area of South Snyderham and Sipup have been vandalised or taken. Some 18 out of 22 cameras in Bromley have also been reportedly damaged or stolen, while all but one are out of action on the A225, according to the analysis. Nick Artlett from the Action Against Ulez Extension Group predicted that vandalism will be on the rise as the expansion comes into force. He said, now it's getting closer, people are getting more militant. I don't condone vandalism, of course, but it will escalate. And last week, the Met Police said that it had recorded 288 crimes relating to Ulez cameras between April and August. And the TfL, of course, said, we urge vandals to reconsider. Cables have been left unexposed, so anyone carrying out repairs could either be killed or injured. This is dangerous. And in response to the vandalising of cameras, a spokesperson for the London Mayor said the Mayor has been clear that the decision to expand the Ulez London-wide was not an easy one. Yeah, right, I bet it was for him. With all the money that presumably us taxpayers will be paying for his gas-guzzling Range Rover, but anyway. But necessary to tackle toxic air pollution. It kind of looks like the government has been on an Asylum spending spectacular. The show where the taxpayer money disappears faster than the magician's rabbit into your hat. I mean, hold on to your wallets, because the taxpayer bill for Asylum has almost doubled in a mere year. That's right, $4 billion, with, of course, Rishi Sunak is here to remind us that the cost is unacceptable. Well, well done, Rishi. We're all just thrilled to know how displeased you are with this pocket-emptying nightmare. But in the wild world of numbers, £1.85 billion, transforming the budget from a quaint £2.12 billion to the grand spectacular £3.97 billion. It's like watching a budget balloon being inflated until it bursts, showering us with something made out of our hard-earned cash. I know that, of course, our bank accounts are crying for the good old days when Asylum spending was a mere £500.2 million, back at a time when we were all young and innocent and our wallets were blissfully unaware of the impending financial apocalypse. Let's just talk a little bit about these channel crossings, shall we? I mean, apparently 19,000 people decide to embark on the delightful cruise across the English Channel. Remember when Rishi promised to stop the boats? Because it seems like those boats didn't exactly get the memo, doesn't it? It's like telling a toddler not to touch the cookie jar and then watching them gleefully munch a handful of cookies while making eye contact with you. And let's not forget the delightful statistic. 80% of asylum seekers are twiddling their thumbs for longer than 6 months before they even get initial decision. It's kind of like waiting in the queue for a theme park, isn't it? Except instead of roller coasters, it's like you're stuck in the thrill and adventure of Backlog Land. Although in my opinion, the only back that should be in the title is going back to the safe country of France where they came from. Because they surely can't be fleeing war if they're coming from a safe country, can they? But either way, Mr. Sunak has of course pledged to clear the backlog of around 92,601 legacy cases by the end of 2023. A noble endeavour indeed, yet in a stunning twist that, unsurprisingly of course, hasn't happened. A whopping 175,457 people are apparently waiting for initial decision, and a staggering 44% from last year. It's like watching a breaking records montage in a movie, except of course instead of stunning feats, it's kind of like a parade of paperwork piling up. Labour obviously is swooping in with their commentary as usual, except it does make me wonder just how much the number would have gone up by if they were actually in charge, and I got a feeling that probably would have been by a lot more. But anyway, the article says that the taxpayer bill on asylum almost doubled in a year to nearly £4 billion. As Rishi Sunak said, the cost was unacceptable and warned that the system is under sustainable pressure. Home Office spending on asylum rose by £1.85 billion from £2.12 billion in the year from 21 to 22 to £3.97 billion this year. A decade ago, though, in 2012 to 2013, the total cost to the taxpayer was £500.2 million, and channel crossings topped 19,000 for the year so far. Home Office figures show that despite Mr Sunak's promise to voters that he would stop the boats bringing migrants across the English Channel, about 80% of asylum seekers are waiting longer than 6 months for initial decision, government statistics show. And Mr Sunak has also pledged that by the end of this year to clear the backlog of around 92,601 so-called legacy cases, which has been in the system as of the end of June last year. But in the 6 months since Mr Sunak made the promise, the figure has reduced by less than a quarter, and he told the Daily Express the best way to relieve an unacceptable cost to the taxpayer is to stop the boats in the first place. Well done, why didn't you try to do that, Rishi? Just say no to them all if they're coming from the safe country of France, and then tell them to fill out the proper paperwork and apply to come here legally. Overall though, a total of 175,457 people were waiting for initial decision on an asylum application in the UK at the end of June 2023, up 44% from 122,213 for the same period a year earlier, which is the highest figure since records began back in 2010. Of these, 139,961 had been waiting longer than 6 months for an initial decision, up 57% year on year, and 89,231 and another record high. And Labour of course said that the record high asylum backlog amounts to a disastrous record for Mr Sunak and Home Secretary Sunak Braverman, while campaigners called for claims to be processed more efficiently. Well, isn't this just the news we all want to hear right now? And that is because MPs who lose their precious seats in the next general election are going to be showered with double the financial support. Because clearly the pain of losing an election must be cushioned by mountains of cash. I mean, it's not like the rest of us, mere mortals who lose our jobs, get any sort of winding down payment at all. No, we just get to wallow in the joys of unemployment, watching repeats of daytime TV, whilst of course wondering if we'll have anything to eat other than noodles. But fear not, dear MPs, for your noble sacrifice of losing the election will now be met with a generous reward of 4 whole months' worth of wages, because apparently losing your seat in Parliament is akin to running a marathon. And of course, you need a prolonged period of rest and relaxation to recover from such a horrible endeavour. And let's not forget the absolutely logical reason for the Independent of Parliamentary Standards Authority, the IPSA. According to them, an MP's job is representing constituencies continues right up until election day. Well, obviously, of course, but that isn't quite the end of it, because those who manage to stick around for more than 2 years get even bigger payouts, because clearly the longer you've been an MP, the more you deserve to be compensated for the sheer agony of not being re-elected. It's just absolutely bonkers, isn't it? It's almost like a twisted version of retirement rewards, but instead of a golden watch or something like that, you get a hefty sum of taxpayer money. But, don't worry your dear heads, MPs, because this brilliant plan doesn't need approval from Parliament. The IPSA, in all of its wisdom, has decided to grant itself the power to make these rules in the first place. Because, why bother with votes when they can just hand out money like sweets on Halloween? Surely now losing an election is officially the most lucrative endeavour in town, isn't it? I mean, move over lottery tickets, because getting voted out of Parliament is bound to be the real ticket to financial success, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, though, they get more than £80,000 a year in salary and, of course, other expenses too. So surely they don't need this as well. I mean, the rest of us wouldn't get it, would we? But anyway, the article says that MPs who lose their seat in the next general election are to receive double the financial support. Winding down payments, as they're called, are designed to help departing MPs close their office and manage the departures of staff. And at the last general election, MPs received 2 months' wages after losing their seat, but this year will now be doubled to 4 months, following a ruling from the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, the IPSA, which governs MPs' expenses. Payments will not be made to MPs who opt to stand down before the election period, though. And whilst explaining the decision, the IPSA said that an MP's job of representing their constituencies continued right up to election day, and they would only begin to close their offices once a new MP has been elected. The IPSA also acknowledged that the time it takes to fully close an MP's parliamentary and financial affairs is longer than the time covered. The ruling said that former MPs will continue to have access to their normal budgets prorated for that of a 4-month period, and they will continue to employ staff as needed to assist them in winding up their affairs. MPs, though, who have served more than 2 years are also eligible for loss of office payments, with longer serving MPs receiving larger payment amounts. And the new system does not need at all to be approved by Parliament, as the IPSA has been granted the powers to make the rules itself. Which, of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but that kind of reminds me of a certain committee who was judging someone a little while ago. But anyway, payments will be available to all eligible MPs who leave Parliament in the next election. Of course, I don't know about you, but if anything, it kind of seems like they've let the power go to their heads, doesn't it? Especially without even having to be voted on. Or in the case of Rishi, which brings me on to this video where he could soon be out a lot sooner than he was planning.